Listen, if consumer arithmetic is confusing you, I promise by the end of this video it's gonna feel like common sense. We're talking about profit and loss, discounts, VAT, simple and compound interest, and hire purchase. And yeah, these are the same topics that show up every year on paper too. I'm doing a course where I'm breaking down the syllabus and explaining it so that you can pass your exam. And we're starting from section 3 because that is what is taught in grade 10 and 11. But if you want me to break down section 1 and 2 also, I will do that. But now we're working on section 3, consumer arithmetic, all the way up to vectors and matrices. So welcome, I am CXC boss. These videos takes long to make, so I'd appreciate if you like and subscribe. And yeah, let's get into our class. So when you hear consumer arithmetic, think of it as basically like math you use in real life. Buying clothes on sale, taking a loan, paying tax, running a business. So instead of memorizing formulas, think of it as money math. Okay, now it's time for the big bang question. Profit and loss. What is that? So cost price is what you bought it for, while selling price is what you sold it for. Pretty simple, right? And here we have the formula to find it. So to find the profit, it is the selling price minus the cost price. And to find the loss, it is the cost price minus the selling price. So here we have an example. Now, reading the question, I think it's pretty obvious that we made a profit, and they didn't state it, and they didn't state that we should calculate the profit made. But it's obvious that we made a profit, and we're going to proofread it here. So first, I always say this: when you're calculating math, the first thing that you should do is rewrite your formula. So we see here that profit. Let's put just let us just put PR equal SP minus CP, which SP means selling price, which is what you sold it for, and CP means what you bought it for. So it says that we bought it for 10,000. So for the cost price, it would be 10,000 right here. And you sell it for 12,000, which is our selling price, which would be 12,000 right here. And now we just whip that into shape, which is obviously $2,000. So that would be the profit made. So $2,000 would be the profit made, and it's that easy. Now let's answer another question. You buy a Probox car for 75,000 and sold it for 50,000. What's the loss? And we all know that a Probox is not for 75,000 if you understand the reference that I'm trying to make. But again, and here it states that we're actually calculating the loss. Because obviously, if we're selling it less than for what we buy it for, then we're obviously losing. So we're not calculating the loss, which let's look back on our formula, where it says that loss is the cost price, which is what it was originally selling for, which is what you bought it for, minus the selling price. So let us whip that into shape right now. So CP, which is cost price, minus selling price. So what is the cost price? What did we buy it for? So it says that you bought a Probox car for 75,000 and sold it for 50. So now we're going to take away or minus 50,000. And now we just whip that in our calculators, or obviously you can just use your brain, which is the answer is 25,000. But if you want to use your calculators, that's fine, which gives us 25,000. And this would be our loss. And that is how calculating profit and loss goes. Now, another thing that CXC loves to ask is for you to calculate the profit percentage or the loss percentage. And here we have a formula that kind of looks a bit jumbled, but let me explain it. So it's profit or loss. So whatever you're trying to find, that would be upon the numerator of the fraction divided by the cost price times 100. I know it's pretty hard to read. I'm so sorry for my bad handwriting, but it's also right down here, which says PR, which is profit, or LO, which I stands for loss, divided by cost price times 100. So you can put it in this way, or you can also put it in the fraction way, which is right here. Now, let us get into a question and see if this actually applies where we can find the profit percentage. So it says a retailer buys a phone for 600 and sells it for 750. Calculate the profit percentage. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is actually, since it's not given to us, we now need to calculate the profit. So that's the first thing that we need to do. And how did we say we calculate profit? It is the selling price minus the cost price. I would see here that the selling price was 750 and the cost price was 600. And our answer is 150. So that is our profit, and I'm just gonna erase all of this real quick. So now we know that it's 150. We don't have much space, so that's why I erased it. But we know that it's 150. So now we would put 150 over the cost price, which is 600. And then we would multiply that by 100. So 150 divided by 600 gives us 0.25, and then that will be multiplied by 100, which gives us 25. So the profit percentage made, oh my god, this okay, this my handwriting is terrible, which is 25% profit was made on this purchase. And guys, this is as far as profit and loss goes. It's really easy. But let's do a little bit more questions right here before we move on to the next topic. A vendor buys a case of water for $12. He sells each bottle at 0.75 cents. So A says, calculate the total selling price of the case. So they're asking you to find the entire case and how much you made. So they said right here that they sold it for 0.75 75 cents, right? So what we're going to do is multiply that by the amount sold. And by doing this, you get total amount that the vendor made. All you have to do is multiply what he sells it for by the amount he sold. It's pretty self-explanatory. As I said, you really have to put yourself in these people's shoes when you're doing these type of things. Like you are a vendor and you're selling each of these for 0.75 cents. How much are you going to make when you make 24? Obviously, you have to multiply. Now let's move on to B, which says calculate the total profit made on the case. And to do that, all you have to do is subtract, because this is what I made on the case, which is 18. So this is my total that I made on the case right here. All you have to do is subtract that by the amount that the case was originally selling for, which they said that it was $12 for the 24 bottles. And you would get 6. So this is the profit that you made in total. Then it says express the profit as a percentage of the cost price. Now, so it says express the profit as a percentage of the cost price. Now, all it's basically asking us to do is to find the percentage profit. So remember that when we are finding percentage profit, all we have to do is put our profit over our cost price and multiply it by 100, right? So we made $6, right, off of the entire case. That's what we just calculated. And in total, the cost price was $12. And then now we and the next step is to multiply it by 100, and then now you calculate that, which you would get 50%. And that is how you do that. So they love to ask these kinds of tricky questions that seem hard, but basically if you break it down, all they're asking you to find is the percentage profit of the cost price. So what did you make? What percentage of profit did you make off of selling these? It says that our profit was $6. So we divide that by the amount that we bought it for. So in total, we made 50%. Moving on. Now we're moving on to discount. Now, guys, when you think discount, just think of money that you are saving. As I said, put yourself in the shoes of other people. Put yourself in these scenarios. Put yourself like you're the ones that are saving that actual money. Just think about it as when you purchase something, you're actually saving so much money, right? So here's the key thing to remember. When CXC mentions marked price, it just means original price. Don't get tricked. They like to use these big words, but they all have simple meanings. So marked price means original price, and discount means the amount that is taking out of the amount that you are spending. Most of the time, they're asking you to find the amount that you are saving, right? So here's the formula right here. It kind of looks a bit confusing, but let's break it down. So to find the amount that you are saving, it is discount percentage divided by 100, which equals the percentage in decimal. Now, when you have the percentage in decimal, then you multiply it by the original price, and then you will get the discounted price. So we're trying to find the discounted price. Now, before you say that this is confusing and I'm boring you and the CXC boss is losing his touch to explain correctly, let us do this question right here and show you how easy it is. As I said, always, always, always put yourself in the position of the scenario that they are putting forward. A pair of jeans is marked at 160. Remember, marked is just the original price. So they're saying that the pair of jeans is being sold for 160 during a back to school sale. The store offers a 15% discount. Calculate the value of the discount in dollars and then calculate the final sale price of the jeans. Okay, all these big words, all these big questions, so confusing, right? Let me break it down for you. So it's asking you to calculate the value of the discount in dollars. Let me show you how easy it is. So we know that the original price is $160 and the discount is 15%. Now all we have to do is, as we see up here, the discount percentage, which is this right here, is supposed to be divided by 100. So that is the first step. So we're going to be dividing this by 100, which gives us 0.15, right? Now it isn't done there. So now it says the percentage in decimal is supposed to be multiplied by the original price. So 0.50 is going to be multiplied by 160. And when that is done, we get $24. Now, what is this $24? This is the discount value. So this is how much is actually being taken out. So this is how we calculate the value of discount in dollars. So what it's basically saying is that we should calculate the amount that we are saving. So we are saving $24. And A is finished. That's all you have to do to find the discounted price. So this is the price that is being taken out of the original price. Now, B says calculate the final sale price of the jeans. Now, all this is saying is for you to calculate is the amount that is going to be left after the discount is taken out. So it says calculate the final sale price. It's basically saying that you should calculate the money that you are going to pay now, which all we have to do is subtract. It's simple subtraction, which is the original amount minus the amount that we're getting discounted on right now, which is this 24. And then we would get $136. Simple as that. Simple, simple, simple. VAT. VAT now is literally the opposite of discount. So when we're doing discount, we remove the percentage that we got by the March price. But now we're adding on that amount back. So here we have a question. So I'm not going to get into it much because it's literally just the opposite of discount. So it says here the market price of a television is 1,200. If the VAT is charged at a rate of 15%, calculate the final price a customer pays for the TV. So how do we do this? So first what we should do is find 15% of 1,200. So again, we know we put it in our decimals, and this is how what we get if you divide this by 100 in your calculator. And after getting this, all you do now is multiply it by this up here, and then you will get your answer. Now, when we're doing discounts, normally after we get this price, we subtract it from this to get our discounted price. But since we're not doing discount, we're doing VAT, which is basically tax, which is added more money, which is money being added to your purchase. We're now going to add it. So it's going to be 1,200 plus 180, which will give us 1,380. And this would be our answer. And this will be our... So this will be our final price. This would be the final price. And that's basically VAT. So when you're thinking VAT and discount, it's basically just the opposite of each other. If they ask you to calculate the VAT, they're just asking you to calculate the amount that is now added. So that's kind of a loss for us. Now, let's move on to simple interest and compound interest. Now, simple interest is you only earn interest on your original deposit, which is the principal. It stays the same every year. While compound interest is the earned interest on your principal plus the interest you've already earned. It's interest on interest. Now, these are probably very confusing. So let's look at the formulas. So we see here to find simple interest, which is the first topic that we're going to look at, is P times R times T. So P is the principal, R is the interest rate, and T is the time in years. So P is the original money taken. So interest is basically borrowing money from someone, and in return, they want extra money on the money that you are borrowing. So the principal would be the original money without the profit that they are making that you are taking, which is probably confusing, but you're going to see later on down in the video. Now, interest rate is the rate that they're charging. So if they say that I'm going to lend you $5,000, but when you're going to pay me back, I want a 2% rate on it. That would 2% rate on it. That would be the interest rate that you're taking. Then the time in years is the amount of years they take to pay you back. So it's not normally in months or weeks. People normally take years to pay back others when it comes on to borrowing money. So here is an example where it says that you borrowed $10,000 for 5% for 2 years. You can see that they substituted here. So P, which is the principal, which I was saying before, was the original rate that you would put back here. So you actually borrowed just $10,000. The rate, which they said you borrowed $10,000 at a rate at 5%, you would put back here at R, which you can see in the formula right here. And the time in years, which you can see they put right here, which they said that we borrowed it for 2 years. You now substitute it here for the formula for the time here, which is the time in years. I don't know. Hopefully I'm not confusing you guys, but I'm trying to explain it as simple as possible. So when you substitute all of the formulas, then it is put over 100. So after calculating this up here, it is now divided by 100. Potato, potato, right? So math rule, we saw what's in the bracket first, and then we divide by 100.
And as we can see here, the answer is $1,000. Now, do we just leave it here? No. We now have to add the final money or the total. So what are they making plus what am I also giving back to them? So we borrow 10,000 and then we're going to be adding the money that we're making, which is the 1,000, which gives us, it looks like it was erased right here, which is $11,000. Potato, potato, that's how you find simple interest. Now, here's a question that we're going to be doing on our own. So it says an investor puts $5,000 into a fixed deposit account for 4 years at an interest rate at 6% per annum. Calculate the interest earned, calculate the total amount in the account after 4 years. So not only are we going to calculate the interest that the investor is earning, but also the total amount that we're paying plus the interest. So let's write down our information. We know that the principal, which is the original price, which is the marked price, there's so many different words for it, but it's just the original price, is $5,000. We see that the rate is 6, and we see that the time taken to pay is 4 years. So to find the simple interest, we now substitute to our formula, which is up here. I would recommend you writing it off, or because we're about to move on. So you have the formula. Ooh. So you have the ooh. So you have the formula up there. Okay. So now we substitute, which is 5,000 times 6, which is the rate, times 4, and then we're going to be putting it over 100. 1,200. So what is this 1,200? This is the extra money that you're paying. This is the interest that you are paying. And that is how you do A. Now it also says at B that we should calculate the total amount. So basically they're now asking us what is the interest plus the original money that was paid, which is the principal, or which is the mark price. Like, there's so many different names for it. So we're going to be, all we have to do now is just add it, which is going to give us 6,200. So in total, you're paying 6,200. And that is how you answer this question. Now, this is where I'm going to end the video. I am going to do a part 2, finding compound interest, depreciation, hire purchase, budgeting, and exchange rates, and utility and bills. So ensure that you are subscribing so you don't miss anything as we break down the mathematics syllabus. But this is CXC Boss signing out.